Good morning, everybody. Today we'll discuss about the various forms of business unit. Actually, our course is Principles of Accounting, but as per new guidelines by SCCA, we have an outcome as forms of business units. I think it is better to have an idea, but before going to the accounting procedure and steps and rules and all this accounting, to have an idea about what are the different forms of business unit. Also, it is one of the most important decisions to be taken by the businessman to decide which form of business organization he want to start. So, in addition to this, before taking, this is one of the decision, which one forms of business organization. In addition to this, we have to, a businessman has to take so many other decisions. We'll just go through that. Just like the nature of business, he has to decide. Whether the line of products he has to decide, mix or product mix or line. The nature of business, like whether he want to start manufacturing business or trading business or service undertaking, he has to decide. Then he has to decide the size of business, whether large scale, small scale or medium scale. And he has to decide the location of the business and so many things like financial resources, fund, from where the fund can be raised or capital can be raised, physical facilities, planned location, and workforce, availability of workforce, employment, from where the employees are to be recruited, how they are to be trained or selection, promotion, all this procedure he has to think about. Then tax regulations prevailing in the country as a whole. What type of tax rule is there? What type of exemptions are available? And also, before launching the business, he has to decide about the marketability of the product and which is the target market, where you want to sell the product. And also, especially in this COVID situation, COVID-19 pandemic situation, he has to decide the possibility of online marketing, whether the product can be marketed online through online platform, whether it is possible or not. Then demand for the product, then regulations, rules available, regulations and rules, and also the competitors strength, what type of competition is prevailing, and supplier, who are the suppliers, whether the credit facilities can be available or not. Then what are the operating efficiencies, operating expenses and efficiency also he has to decide. And also the registration procedures, how the registration can be done, what are the procedure, registration, licensing, planning, legal procedure, all these he has to decide. And financial management and all these things. Also the ROI, return on investment, he has to decide how much return, capital, cost of capital he has to decide. How much cost he has to incur for getting the finance. How much profit is expected from investment, ROI, return on investment. Like so many things he has to decide. One of the most important decision is form of business unit. So we'll go to the form. So to have an idea, I just give a glimpse of this, because to have an idea, this is not the ultimate decision. There are many decisions he has to take, a businessman, before starting the business. One of the decisions is to decide the form of business or entity form. So according to the entity form, there are mainly three forms: proprietorship, partnership, corporation. And in addition to this, there are many other forms like cooperative societies, joint family undertaking, like so many other forms are there. But a common, in general, the major forms are It is in our, I think in our outcome, it is only three major forms we have to discuss: proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. What is proprietorship? Sole trading or sole proprietorship. It is a form of business unit which is owned, managed, and controlled by a single person. One person. He is the owner. Ownership, management, and control is done by one person, or vested, or belongs to one person. The profit is need not share the profit, the entire profit or losses. He is responsible for profit and losses. And this type of business, there are so many benefits, and there are some disadvantages. These we have to mainly discuss because if you are a businessman, if you want to start a business, before starting accounting, you have to decide this, which type of business you want to start. So you have to compare. A comparative analysis is to be made in between the what are the pros and cons of all these three forms. So another is partnership. Partnership is actually, it is an agreement, or it is a relation between two or more partners who have agreed to share the profits and losses arising from the business. Or it is actually, the basic fundamental principle of partnership is mutual trust and confidence, because it is made on the basis of an agreement, or it is called partnership deed. So we'll discuss partnership, what are the pros and cons, or the advantages and disadvantages of partnership. And also the corporation. Corporation is actually, it is an association of person, body, or body of individual, or persons, association of individuals who have contributed money or money's worth to a common goal and agreed to share the profit and losses arising therefrom. But it is it is an artificial person in the eye of law. It is not, it is entirely different from partnership and sole trading concern, the separate legal entity. And there are so many features like limited liability. Liability of members in corporation is limited. So we will discuss one by one. So to have an idea, we'll just also I want to tell in corporation in case of Oman, while analyzing in Oman situation, there are three types of corporations. One is LLC, limited liability company. Another is SAOG and SAOC, Society Omanis and Anonym, Omanis General, and closed. One is closed, one general. There are some difference in between that, SAOG and SAOC. That also we'll discuss. LLC is a comparatively smaller business. It needs a limited capital to register an LLC. 150,000 real. But in case of SAOC, it is 500,000, half million. 500,000 real is the minimum requirement. But when it is in case of SAOG, it is 2 million. Capital is comparatively bigger business. And also the main the difference is it is the one is closed, one is open. It means the public subscription is closed. There are some provisions or some subject to some restriction. It is called preemptive rights. In public subscription cannot be made free. It is not freely. You cannot go to the public for raising fund in case of SAOC. It is closed. It is not free. It is not open to all. The preemptive right, actually it is called hukuk al-waqa'iyya. That means a preemptive right. That means you have to first preference you have to give to the existing shareholders. You cannot go to the without their right. It is their preemptive. It is called preemptive right. This is the main difference between SAOG and SAOC. SAOG, there is no such preemptive right. If the company wants, they can go to the public without consulting to the existing shareholders. But in SAOC, there is some restriction. That is why it is different. But we are not going in partnership. Also, there are something to tell that minimum number of members in a partnership, as you know, it is 2, but maximum numbers it is 20 in case of all other business except banking business. Banking business maximum number of members is 10 partners, 10 partners, or the maximum number of partners is 10. Proprietorship, single. The person, which is the business which is owned, managed, and controlled by a single person. Now we'll go to the in detail to have an idea. That is our main purpose, is to distinguish a comparative analysis. For example, in case of proprietorship or sole trading concern, the formation is very easy. One person can decide easily whether to start the company or not, when to start. So what type of company is to be started? So all these decisions, earlier we discussed, all these decisions can be taken by a single person. So it is easy. Or freedom of decision making, that is one of the most important. Freedom of decision making. He need not consult to anybody. In partners, if there is 10 partners, different partners have different ideas or different views or different perspectives. So it needs to be consulted to come to an agreement. They have to come to an agreement in between all partners. So it is decision making is a little difficult. Then there is another advantages in case of sole trading, tax advantage. Tax you have to pay on personal income tax, you have to pay. No corporate tax, no double taxation is not there. You have to pay tax. For tax advantage is one of the most important advantage, most important benefits in sole trading concern. And also working capital. Working capital is minimum. So material, you should have cash or cash equivalent to buy the material to be converted into, or material can be converted into work in progress, finished goods, and sold on credit, and creditors money collected again it is to be. So this working capital will be fixed capital also, both will be little comparatively less. Then another advantage is confidentiality. If the business wants to need privacy or confidentiality, high confidentiality is needed. In that case, sole trading company, sole proprietorship is better, because in partnership or corporation, confidentiality will be little less. Degree of confidentiality will be little less when compared to the sole trading company. Then another is in sole trading company, it is owned, managed, and controlled by a single person. So the owner or the businessman or the proprietor will have a personal touch with all the people, with employees, with customers, with suppliers, with the other authorities, society, and public. All these interested parties. He will the person or the proprietor or the owner will have, or the businessman will have a personal touch, especially with customers. So these are the just a few benefits in case of sole trading concern. At the same time, there are so many disadvantages also. That also you have to understand, and you have to decide after analyzing all these pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages, or benefit and shortcomings. From this, you have to decide which type of company is better better for you. So like one of the most important disadvantage of sole trading companies, unlimited liability. The liability of the businessman, owner, or the proprietor is unlimited. It may go to the extent of any level. Private property, for example, if you are a sole proprietorship, you have a huge loss in business. There are a lot of creditors, banks, or liabilities. That's all we'll discuss later. You don't know these all the terms. What is liability? What is who's a debtor, creditor, and all. So just understand, you have a lot of dues and obligation to outsiders, and the business is closed. So it will affect your private property. You have to pay all this from your private property. That means liability is unlimited. it is not limited to the extent of the shares, but in corporation it is not like that. Corporate is corporation or companies liability is limited up to the shares held by you. You will lose only the money you invested in shares in that company. You will not even single real or single rupee you need not pay from your private property. So it's a main advantage of corporation and a disadvantage of the company. Another is difficulty in raising capital. Capital raising is little difficult because only single person, as his financial resources are limited always, limited resources and limited capital, or if you want additional capital for expansion, renovation, modernization or anything, it will be little difficult. Sometimes banks also, only the source is loan from bank or loan from borrowing from others, financial institution or from your funds or anyone. So it will be little difficult. So this is also another important defect or disadvantage. Now another is a lack of continuity or perpetual existence. It is, will discuss perpetual existence as a part of company, as a feature of company. Here, the owner, as an owner or as a the proprietor, or the businessman alone, as a single proprietor, if the death, insolvency, or anything which affect his existence, the company will be dissolved automatically. For example, the death of the proprietor will lead to the death of the company, the death of the organization or enterprise. So that is another. Then, like for example, lack of technological advantages, technological enhancement or innovations, advancements. You cannot take advantage of this all. Then resources are, because your resources are limited, your skill is limited, managerial skill is limited, and managerial and ability and skill is limited because it depends, it limits, as you are alone taking decision, it limits your skill. So like now you understood what are the so many some advantages are there, and there are so many disadvantages also for sole trading concern. While each one, for example, one I told you tax advantage. So in your country, in your locality, the tax is exempted for a particular, for a specific type of company or concern, small SME, small and medium enterprises. It's also coming in. So most of the small SMEs are in partnership or proprietorship. So if for SME or small or cottage or tiny industries, if we have a lot of tax rebate or tax exemption is there, that is a big advantage. You need not pay tax. Sometimes you need tax. Holidays maybe there for 5 years, you need not pay tax. So that is an advantage. Like there are so many advantages. At the same time, if it is risky, if the company, if the organization or the enterprise or business you want to start is highly risky, sole trading will not be appropriate because unlimited liability. If the company is running at loss and dissolved, each and every liabilities or debt you have to repay. So this is a major disadvantage. Now we can go to the partnership. I told you it is an agreement. It's made in relation between partners or an agreement between partners. It is a basic partnership is made with an agreement. So like this 2 or 3 person, maximum I told you, maximum it may be 20, and minimum number of partners is 2 to 20. In banking cases it is maximum is 10. In partnership also, comparatively when compared to company, joint stock company, partnership also easy formation. Then another advantage of partnership is tax advantage is subject to partnership also. It is getting tax advantage. It is personal tax only you have to pay. Each partner has to pay their personal income tax. No need corporate tax, just like company. Then legal regulations are also not very strong, very heavy, or very complicated legal regulation. Like in company, there are so many procedures, articles of association, memorandum, public succession, prospectus, planning, licensing, getting like so many commencement of business, certificate of commencement of business, like so many procedures are you have to go through. But for partnership, it is not there. It is a partnership. It is an ultimate agreement. It is a deed. Partnership deed is to be registered. And partnership is also, there are in most of the partnership are unlimited liabilities are on general partnership, but there are some countries, it's not always everywhere, but limited partnership also is there, but it is not a topic to be discussed, but it is very rarely, there are so many restrictions for that. Then raising funds is also easy in partnership, because partners are the raising fund is, when compared to the sole trading company, easy to raise funds. There is no so many procedure for just like corporation issue of share, for issuing shares. There are a lot of procedures are there. Then sharing of ideas and skill. The skill, it is a sharing of ideas. Your ideas and skill is shared. So when you take managerial skill, a manager, you are the manager, you are the administrator, you are controller, you are the owner, and everything by you. In case of partnership, it is a 5 or 6, 7 persons. They are sitting together and deciding. So various ideas, a sharing of ideas, or they are getting a new ideas or skill is shared. That is a big advantage of partnership. Then even though there are some partnership also, there are so many disadvantages, like one of the disadvantages, unlimited liabilities. In partnership especially, the liability of each partners are joint and several. Unlimited and joint and several. For example, if all the partners are having private property, everyone has to pay. For example, the company has a big, huge loss. Everyone has to pay according to the proportion, profit sharing ratio. They have to profit sharing, profit and loss is shared in the proportion. So they have to compensate. But in case of one out of 6 partners, one partner is 2 partners are having a lot of private properties, other 4 partners are not having private properties, means joint their liability is joint and several. It means these 2 partners have to pay the entire liability irrespective of their profit sharing ratio. This is a big setback in partnership. If it is a risky company, or the risk is very high, degree of risk is high, it is better partnership is, this is a drawback, because the person who is having a private property, he has to make good or compensate all these other partners. So this is another. Then divided authority is divided. Authority is divided. No dilution of authority. We can tell it is a dilution of authority. Authority is divided or diluted. You are not other. So in sole trading, sole proprietorship concern, you are the sole proprietor. You are your ultimate authority to take decision. No one to. You need not consult with anyone. But in this case, you have to consult. Then another is possibility of conflict in partnership. There most often there is a possibility of conflict, disagreement between partners. Most in many cases, if you take even the big companies, I'm not going to the example because our allotted time is very less. So if you take many big companies collapsed because of conflict, of internal conflict or disagreement between partners, and it may lead to dissolution of the company. So possibility of instability, that is another. Another is most important, I told you, joint and several liability. Liabilities, joint and several. So partnership also having, now you understood, there are so many advantages are the benefits are there, and so many disadvantages are there, or the merits and demerits are there. Both you have to consider. Now we will go to the corporation. It's an artificial person, registered person, the registered company or incorporated body. It is called, in the eye of law, it is a artificial person in the eye of law. Company can file suit against you. You can file suit against company. So it is this like an artificial person, just like natural person. We are person. We can go to the company. We can go to the court against a company, file suit against a company. Just like that, company can file a suit against you because it is an artificial person. So like so many things are there. I told you in Oman there are three type of joint stock companies or corporation: LLC, SAOG, SAOC. The main difference I told you, the preemptive right in SAOC, there are the shareholders are having, existing shareholders are having preemptive right. The company is not free to such public subscription cannot be made freely without the consulting the shareholders. First, they have to give the option to shareholders. Then another is perpetual succession, continuous existence. It's a very big advantage of the company, because if the company the death or insolvency or what you call retirement or insolvency, death, retirement, or anything happens to the members or shareholders, company will be exist. Company is a separate legal entity. It is a separate person, because entire board of directors and shareholders are disappeared or no more existing. Company will be there, because it is an artificial person, separate legal entity apart from members. So that is a very big advantage of company. The dissolution or winding up of company is very difficult, and it is a very tedious process. Court has to do that. With the intervention of court only can do. Nobody can dissolve the company. That is why it is that the government having a lot of regulations and government control is their own company. Why? Because management owner, separation of owners and management. Company's real owners are shareholders, those who are invested money in the company, but it is managed, controlled by the board of directors, the elected body, the board of directors. So the board of directors, whatever they are doing is on behalf of shareholders. So the board of directors, as there is separate entity, separation of management and owners. So it is confirmed by, it is assured by the government. So government bringing a lot of control, like company is the compulsory auditing. The in every country, almost every country, the corporation or company is compulsorily to be audited. Statutory audit is to be done for the company. So because for example, Muscat Security Market or Chamber of Commerce or all this Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Finance, and all these are having a lot of restriction for the company. Bringing a lot of restriction for the company is companies working day-to-day operation. And another is transfer of ownership. Company, in case of company, another benefit is transfer of ownership. You can sell the share, transfer freely without any restriction. Even secondary market in Muscat Security Market, you can sell the share, you can transfer the share, you can sell or transfer freely. Transferability of ownership or shares is another very important characteristic, and also it is an advantage. Anytime if you want money, you can sell the share and get money. Then scope for expansion, high scope for expansion. If the company want to expand or modernize or innovate or implement new technology or anything, if you want money, additional capital, there are a lot of sources are there. Sources are there, sources of capital. You can get from, you can issue new share, debenture, bonds, loans, like so many options are there, not like sole trading concern or partnership. So this is another scope. Then normally the creation of employment opportunities. Company create a lot of employment opportunities. In every country, joint stock companies or the companies are creating. Companies normally in large scale business, so thousands of employees are needed. So it creates a lot of opportunities for employment opportunities. And also another is economies of scale. You may be heard about economies of scale. That means it may be studied in principles of economic, you may be studied. That if a company, as it is a big, large scale industry, it is getting a lot of benefit. For example, if you buy a large scale in a large quantity, if you are buying, you will get discount. like so many transportation in all these economies of scale. If, for example, you buy from Muscat something and bring to Niswa, so if you buy it in a small quantity, the fare per unit will be, the freight per unit will be high. When if you are bringing in a truck in a large quantity, the freight per unit will be less. Like whenever there is a large big company, you're starting, you're running a big company, you have a lot of economies. Just like in corporation, just apart from the partnership or sole trading concern, corporations are getting a lot of this. Then another is credibility and goodwill. When you consider the goodwill or credibility, the company's goodwill is very high because of these all restrictions by the government, and auditing is compulsory, and a lot of control by government, and everything is internal matters and external, everything is audited, and everything is reports are sent to the government, or what do you call, tax authorities or other agencies. For example, in here in Oman, every company, whether it's LLC, SAOG, SAOC, they have to send their every 3 months, quarterly and half yearly and yearly report, annual or financial statement. They have to send to the Muscat Security Market, MSM, every 3 months, every 6 months, and every year. So 3 times, first quarter, second quarter, and final, annual. All this report they have to send. It's also after final, after closing account, immediately within few days, within I think 3 or 7 days, they have to send this report. So this is like so many restrictions are there. So it is one way. It is credibility of the company, goodwill or reputation will be very. So at the same time, the company or corporation is also having a lot of disadvantages or shortcoming or demerits. So we can check one. Some of them are, for example, I told you, so taxation is a tax advantage is there for partnership and sole trading. Here, no tax, double taxation is there. Twice you have to pay tax. One is corporate tax, company from the net profit of the company, you have to pay the tax, and also from your income, your personal income, you have to pay the tax. So 2 times you have to pay the tax. Double taxation is a very big setback or disadvantage for the company form of business. Then formation is, I told you, a very difficult formation. Formation in company is not like any easy task like partnership or sole trading company. Formation is, it needs a lot of stages. You have to submit a lot of documentary evidences, and just like I told you, articles of association, memorandum of association, prospectus is to be completed. You have to get certificate of commencement of business, and licensing, planning, and so many procedures, industrial license, and all this municipality license. So many. If it is a manufacturing company, in another case, industrial license and all you have to get. So a lot of procedures are there. So it is also a big, what do you call, setback or shortcoming for the company. Then closely regulated. I told you, it is very strongly regulated by the regulatory agencies of the government. Like one I told you, MSM, Muscat Security Market. It is regulated, or like that. So many regulatory agencies are there. So company is subject to a lot of regulation. Then ownership is diluted. You are not the entire. You are not a sole owner in a company. You are a shareholder. Your voting right depends upon your shares held. So dilution. Suppose if you have taken more than 50%, at least 51% of shares are held by you, you are a competent authority. You can take decision. In other cases, if it is less than 50%, everyone you have to consult with others. So dilution of ownership and control is there. And another is conflict of interest. Most often, it is also a big threat to company. Conflict of interest. The shareholders or board of directors, management, with management and board of directors, or board of directors and shareholders, and all these are having some sort of conflict. So this is also another important what you call instability of the reason for instability of company. Then another I told you in salt trading concern, one of the most important benefit is confidentiality nature. Our privacy can be maintained. Here there is no confidentiality, lack of business privacy or confidentiality. Then another is I told you rules and regulations are too much, so it is very difficult for company to survive. But if we have the adequate resources, men, machine, material, money, all of these resources, it doesn't matter. Then another important disadvantage of company is monopolistic. Company most often when the company become larger and very big and monopoly. Suppose the company have a monopoly, there is no competitor, then it will lead to exploitation, high prices, inferior quality. Like it may exploit the public or the people, society. So like this company form of organization is also having a lot of advantages are there. At the same time, there are a lot of disadvantages. So when you are starting a company, after starting a company only you will go to the accounting aspects and all. Before that, all these things you have to have, you should have an idea about all this. After that, you decide which form of entity or organization is to be started, whether proprietorship, partnership, or corporate corporation. Corporation or cooperative society also is there. It is a registered, it is under Cooperative Societies Act, and it is a different rules. I am not discussing here. Here we are not concerned with only three types of or forms of business unit. So these are the, I hope you have got a brief idea about this three forms of business unit. Thank you. Thanks a lot.